When you think of racing games, the first game you probably think of is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, or maybe even the superior, yes I said it, superior Crash Team Racing game. These games are both immensely popular, and even though the first racing game I've ever played was Mario Kart 64 on my cousin's Nintendo 64, it's actually not the first racing game I've ever owned. ATV Offroad Fury was a game exclusively developed by Rainbow Studios for the PlayStation 2. It was so incredibly popular that it even became part of PlayStation's greatest hits collection. But how good was the game actually? Well, let's play and find out. The game starts off with a live action segment showing real world performances done by riders on, well, ATVs, with the song Atlanta by Straw Horse playing in the back. I'll get back to the game's soundtrack in a bit. I've always thought this segment was so cool because it demonstrated that there are people in the real world that are capable of performing such remarkable tricks on these bikes. Once you're on the main menu, there are a total of 7 options to choose from. Training has an epic narrator voice teach the player the game's basic controls.
Circle number 2. Do it now.
I remember as a kid I could never finish this because I didn't understand how to preload the suspension.
You managed to catch some good air, but you failed to preload the suspension.
But now, this is super easy to me. I can preload the suspension now, and I can beat training with ease. The rest of the game can't be that hard, right? Right?
Congratulations. Looks like you're ready for some off-road fury.
Max's Nationals has a player racing on a total of 11 tracks. When I first booted up the game, I found out that I had actually not even played half of these tracks. That's because I had never unlocked the last 5 of them when I was a kid. You have the option to choose from a bunch of real-world ATVs, each with their own unique stats. There's also a bunch of suits or gear to select from. I remember as a kid, I would always choose the red gear because it reminded me of the Red Power Ranger. You can also choose if you want to be male or female, which is cool. Presidio Park is by far the easiest track, and I had no difficulty coming in first. Chateau Halifax is my absolute favorite. After this track though, it becomes progressively harder. Timing is extremely important in this game. When to preload, how much to preload, when to slow down or stop entirely, it will all help you win the race. Preloading too much can sometimes make you crash outside the track, and preloading too little, or not at all, can potentially slow you down entirely depending on the jump. This is even more true in Stadium Supercross. Stadium Supercross is much harder. The tracks in this game mode are filled with bumps requiring both long and short jumps. Unless you're already a pro at these types of games, you're gonna crash a lot. Skimming ahead to Pro Career is where you unlock the tracks for Max's Nationals. However, you can use cheat codes to unlock the tracks for Max's Nationals and Stadium Supercross in this, but I recommend not using cheat codes because it will definitely take away the sense of accomplishment if you do use cheat codes. After all, you only need 3rd place to advance to the next stage, which is very doable with enough practice. Also, why would you want to miss out on doing stuff like this? And even further, in Stadium Supercross, the crowd even cheers whenever you successfully land a trick. This not only adds immersion, but also fuels that sense of accomplishment. Performing tricks is one of my absolute favorite parts of the game, and that's exactly what Freestyle Competition is all about. In Freestyle Competition, there are 4 open world maps where you can practice performing tricks. The more tricks you perform and the longer you can hold them, the more points you get. Of course, these points are only rewarded if you can successfully land these tricks. There are a total of 16 tricks in the game. Due to the various button combinations, some are more difficult than others. Heartbeat is by far the easiest trick, and Cordova is my absolute favorite. Combining tricks together made me feel invincible. Well, sometimes. The open world maps are also so much fun to explore, and going into buildings in other places you're technically not supposed to be in is something that everyone who had this game used to do as a kid. Oh, and if you try to leave the area, this happens. Cross Country Enduro has you racing on the same maps from Freestyle Competition. However, instead of having the traditional road, you have a waypoint guide you. The waypoint guides you to a bunch of checkpoints scattered throughout the map. The amount of checkpoints all depends on how long you want the race to be. To be honest, this is the most underwhelming race mode in the entire game, simply because it's way too easy, especially once you've memorized the path. You also don't have to worry about bumping into anyone, since there's no out of bounds like in other game modes.
There's not really anything else to say about this game mode. It's pretty straightforward. Just follow the arrow and try to beat everyone else. It's quite simple.
But out of everything this game has to offer, my absolute favorite thing in this entire game has to be the soundtrack. Which I'm not going to play in this video because of copyright concerns. Hey, I'm a small channel. I don't know the gists of everything yet, you know? And by the way, you should subscribe and be part of the first 1,000 subscribers. Okay, thank you. Anyways, this game was well aware of how strong the soundtrack was. It even promoted it in the back of the box. Rocking soundtrack to tear up the competition, including songs from Alice in Chains among others. This may be the nostalgia talking, but having any of these songs playing while doing a trick in the air, all while holding the thorough camera, do be making me feel some type of way. I pretty much love all the songs in this game, but if I had to choose one, my absolute favorite one, it'd be Isolate by Bender. I can't express this enough. If you love early 2000s rock music, I highly recommend checking out this game's soundtrack. It's really something. The nostalgia truck is gonna hit you hard, and the vibe it gives off is so early 2000s. I really can't express how much I love it. Even though the game is a lot of fun, I do have some nitpicks. Constantly preloading with the left analog stick began to irritate my thumb and give it a carpet burn feel. However, this only happened with long game sessions. Furthermore, I think this is a problem with the PS2's controller rather than the game itself. I guess it could be because it's an old controller, but I'm not entirely sure. I also really wish there were one or two more snow tracks. I think the reason I like Chateau Halifax so much is because it was unique and stood out from the rest. It had a nice blue color palette, which is what made it stand out from the rest. And yes, I know Kodiak Pipeline is technically a snow track, but it didn't have that same blue color palette that made Chateau Halifax stand out. And remember, this isn't really a big complaint I have over the game, just something I wished was in it. I do think the background and setting of each track is unique, and I like how some tracks are even at different times of the day, giving each one a different vibe. Some are at dusk, while others are at noon or even at night. Ultimately, this game is a lot of fun. It will be difficult at first, but with enough practice, you'll be able to excel in it. It can also be just a fun leisure game to play simply to kill time. But should you get it? Honestly, probably not. Next year will mark the 20th anniversary of this game, and even though it holds a special place in my heart, there are much better racing games out there on current gen consoles. We should also expect more racing games on next gen consoles with the recent announcement of the next Gran Turismo game. But what if you're an ATV fan? Then, I don't know, Chief. ATV Offroad Fury had a total of 4 installments that ended in 2006. Eventually, Rainbow Studios did begin working on the MX vs ATV franchise, the most recent one being MX vs ATV All-Out, which came out in 2018. That's fairly recent, but I'm gonna be real with you. I had never heard of this game until I googled it, and looking at the reviews on it, like I said, I don't know what to tell you, Chief. I guess the only reason to get ATV Offroad Fury is if you have a PS2 and have nostalgia for it like I do, or if you love collecting retro games. But if not, then just play some Crash Team Racing. He also brings that PlayStation vibe along with him. So in the beginning of the video, you see me like violently cleaning the disc. Yeah, don't do that. You're gonna break your disc like that, you know? That's the most common way to break your disc, by accidentally like scratching it and like cleaning it too hard. That was a dummy disc, by the way. It wasn't the actual game. But the game did take a while to load because it's been on my shelf for a while, you know? In the video, I also said that next year is ATV's 20th anniversary. Well, this year's actually PlayStation 2's 20th anniversary, you know? It turned 20 back in March, which is pretty, it says something, you know? PlayStation 2 was my first console, not counting the Game Boy. Because the Game Boy is more of like a handheld rather than a console, you know? I guess it technically is a console, but anyway. The PS2 was my first TV console. That's what I'm getting at. The main reason I made this video was because I absolutely love retro game review channels. I absolutely love like Tama Hiroka. I used to go by Tamashi Hiroka, and like Ant Dude and Categories. Those are the names that are coming up in my head. I'm sure there are more. But something reminded me of ATV Offroad Fury, and I was like, ooh, did anyone make a review on this? And I looked it up, and the last ATV Offroad Fury review that came out was like almost 10 years ago, and it's just, there's like no recent ones. I'm sorry if you if you're out there and you made a review and were like, and don't like and I didn't like see you, but I swear the last review I saw was like 10 years ago. But anyways, Thank you so much for watching, guys. I appreciate everything. You know, like, comment, subscribe, and share. Be part of the first 1,000 subscribers, guys. We're almost there. All right, thanks. Bye.